All right, let's talk about a single pivotal document that really shaped a political party for almost a century, the Labor Party's 1918 Constitution. And trust me, this isn't just about dry rules and regulations. This is the story of how a rising political force finally found its voice and defined itself for a brand new era.
I mean, think about it. How does a political party really find its voice? A movement can have all these shared ideals, right? But how do you actually translate that into a clear, unified message that can win over an entire nation? That was the exact challenge facing the early Labour Party. They were a growing power in British politics for sure, but they were missing that one central, defining text. Okay, so let's get right into it. To really get why the 1918 Constitution was such a game changer, we have to look at what came before it. Or maybe more accurately, what didn't exist. And this is absolutely the crucial point. The party had principles, it had supporters, it even had members of parliament. But what it didn't have was a single official document that just laid it all out. There was no unified platform that members or voters could point to and say, okay, this is what Labour stands for.
So, to fix this identity crisis, the party leadership decided to do something about it. The solution, which they adopted in February 1918, was to create a formal constitution, basically from the ground up. And you've got to understand, this was way, way more than just a simple rulebook. This was a really conscious, ambitious attempt to forge an identity, to give the party a mission statement that would carry it through all the massive social and political changes that were coming in the 20th century. So who were the brains behind this whole thing? Well, the effort was largely the work of some key figures like Arthur Henderson and Ramsay MacDonald, but the person who actually put pen to paper and prepared the drafts, drawing on his own influential ideas, was the socialist thinker Sidney Webb. So what was actually in this revolutionary blueprint? Well, you can think of the Constitution as resting on two main pillars: a whole new party structure and a powerful new statement of belief. So on the structural side, the Constitution basically turned labor into a big federation of affiliated groups. It set up a 23-member executive to run the party day to day and an annual conference to decide on policy. But the really critical part was how it cemented the formal cooperation with trade unions. This gave them huge influence through something called the block vote, where union leaders could cast all of their members' votes as one single powerful block. But beyond all the mechanics and the structure, one small part of this document would become its most famous, most debated, and most defining element. It was just a single clause that would become the ideological anchor of the party for generations to come. And this was it, the legendary Clause 4. It committed the party to securing for the workers common ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange. In a nutshell, what this really meant was one word: nationalization. And this wasn't just some abstract, fancy language. In practice, common ownership meant taking control of the real core of the economy. We're talking land, factories, transport networks, and even shops and banks, and bringing them all into public hands. So for supporters and critics alike, this one clause became the ultimate proof of Labor's commitment to socialism. It was a clear, unambiguous declaration of what the party was all about at its core. Okay, so the party now has this new identity on paper. But what was the immediate effect in the real world of politics? Well, the answer is it was completely transformative. You see, having this clear, documented platform gave the party a newfound sense of stability, and probably more importantly, a ton of confidence. It really emboldened its leaders. They finally had a solid foundation to stand on, and that allowed them to start making much bolder political moves. And this timeline just shows you how direct that impact was. The Constitution gets adopted in February. Just 9 months later, in November, as soon as the armistice ending World War I is announced, boom, the leading labor ministers who were serving in the wartime coalition government all resign. And let's just be really clear here. This was a remarkable move. For a party that was barely a decade old in Parliament, just walking away from a share of power was a huge statement. It was this big act of reclaiming its political independence, a real sign of the maturity and confidence that the new Constitution had helped to create. So, the 1918 Constitution gave Labor a clear identity and the confidence to go it alone. But that very clarity, that bold ideology, would spark debates and disagreement for decades. And that leaves us with a final question. Was this document the perfect foundation for a future government?
Or did it also sow the seeds of the party's biggest conflicts yet to come?